able to maybe better self-care, self-manage, right? And have more productivity. It's definitely something I think that is worth considering and looking into, because the trends show it. People are burned out,
Right.
and the numbers are showing kind of that reaction to this burnout, especially post-COVID.
Well, should we do with
Jingle.
the jingle time? All right. Welcome to another episode of the Healthy Practice, Healthy Patients podcast, where we focus on the health of your practice so you can focus on the health of your patients. Here we keep you updated on current events in the marketplace. I'm Drew.
And I'm Tanya.
All right, let's go. Let's get into it. So I came across this article. It's talking about Goldman Sachs and their wealth management unit. So last year they were doing really well until Q4. And Q4 they saw a drop of nearly 69% of their assets. And so that led to their 3,200 employees being laid off in January, which we had covered. So that's a little bit of insight for me. I was talking to a dentist who is considering expanding his practice, and he's considering purchasing another property where he could have kind of like a satellite clinic. But it's interesting to me that timing in the market could play a role for him as interest rates continue to increase and the value of properties are supposed to level off, if not decline. Perhaps waiting until the fall or early of next year, there might be a benefit as hopefully the cost of commercial real estate decreases for him. Just because what I'm seeing with the Goldman Sachs performance and the Q4 report and the Q1. So the Q1, they're still reeling. They're still investigating into their wealth management unit. Pandemic kind of put a halt to a few things, and now he's returning back to where things were before the pandemic. And so I feel that he's been waiting for 3 years. What is another 6 months? Because in 6 months, as the market is supposed to change with interest rates increasing and hopefully the market decreasing, that might benefit him with just exercising a little bit of patience. But
kind of coincides a little bit with some of the things that I was reading and talking about actually with Downey this morning.
okay, yeah.
So saw just an article that talked about how there was an increase in part-time employment from December to January.
Okay.
And so they took a little bit of a dive into that, and they're finding that a lot of millennials are experiencing burnout. So this increase in part-time employment is due to non-economic reasons. And so it talked about, it interviewed he's a tech consult. He's now a tech consultant,
Interesting.
but his wife works full time. He now is working a part-time temporary consulting gig. So I think if I remember the numbers, he's making about 20% of the income he was making, but for like 15% of the work. The give and the time for him, I think it was really worth it, with the excess savings that they had, with his wife being able to maintain her full-time employment that's providing the healthcare benefits. He's able to step back and just focus on himself, on his mental health, and do a little bit more of what he's wanting to do. So the article was talking about, as an employer, they're seeing this trend with employees. They're starting to see a decrease in supply of employees, workers, right?
Right.
And so the whole point being that it was just emphasizing that as companies can get ahead of these trends, they can hopefully start to restructure the way that they're looking at even just opportunities within their business. If they're not able to find full-time employment, restructure those positions and restructure some of those responsibilities, possibly to, part-time roles. It coincided perfectly with a conversation Downey and I had at the gym this morning. He listened to a podcast by the prior CFO of PayPal. He is now a venture capitalist. And so he had a very bullish perspective of the market right now. He talked about how what we're seeing in the tech market, we're seeing all of these layoffs. He as an investor in companies, something he always advocates every year is innovation and improved efficiency.
Hmm.
So the metric used to kind of measure that and quantify a company's progress in that area is actually, in his perspective, layoffs. So for him, he sets a benchmark of 5% reduction of staff every year in the companies that he's investing in, because he wants to kind of push the line for innovation and improved efficiency. And I thought that was such a great, just kind of really interesting perspective from a C-suite executive now turned investor into these companies as to how they're looking at growth, innovation, progress of the companies that they're investing in. Kind of maybe falls in line with, a little bit of what you're talking about with this dentist that's wanting to expand and grow.
Right.
I think there's some solid insights that can be pulled from some of those some of that article and podcast.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Over the weekend, I was reviewing this thread of this Facebook group page, their
Hmm.
thread, and they're consistently trying to find new employees. This is the secondary market, but there was this post, and I've seen similar posts like it, where a dental assistant is considering going to hygiene school and graduating as a hygienist. And the obvious benefits would be increase in pay. You more than double your income, but also related to what you're saying about a burnout. A lot of experienced hygienists were saying, yeah, it's great when you start out as a hygienist, you see increase in pay, you're sitting in a different seat, a different chair, different role with your patients. But after 3 to 5 years, if you're doing that full time, your body just can't sustain it. Your body just can't hold up. If you have a practice and you have hygienists who have been in practicing with you for 3 to 5 years or even longer, and they've been full time the entire time, that's something to consider, that they might
That's
be
right.
burning out, right? And if they are electing to leave, perhaps you might want to ask them why, and perhaps consider, hey, would you consider dropping down to
Part-time.
part-time work, right? Because at that time you can retain your employee who has insider's knowledge of your practice and how things are going with your procedures and your systems. And you don't have to fully rehire another employee to replace them who's coming in completely blind to the culture, completely blind to the systems and what your preferences are as a practicing dentist and as a business owner. You can retain some of that insider's knowledge.
Sorry, Drew, I'm going to throw a correction in there. As you were talking, I had to look up the numbers again of that
Okay.
example that I gave you.
Yeah.
So that example of the guy that was working, that moved back to a part-time schedule in his first year of going part-time, he made 25% of his full-time income, working only 15% of the time. And so, I'll kind of just, I guess, going off of what you just said, I think when I first started working, even just experiencing as an employee, I think I just thought, I have to be here 8 to 10 hours to get everything done. And I quickly found that is just not sustainable. And to try to go hard for 8 to 10 hours every day, it definitely is a wear and tear on your mind, your body, um, and it affects your output. And it was actually Downey that would always encourage me to take more breaks away from my desk, go for walks, eat lunch away from your desk, because I'm a eat lunch at my desk type of person. Um, but I quickly found that those little breaks, I really feel like, helped me with my output. I felt like the fresh set of eyes allowed me to look at the info different, better even. And I think even just like in this example of this, this article shared kind of is a witness to people's ability to balance somewhat, right? I think that I'd be interested to see as some of these employees are moving maybe back to a part-time schedule, if that would actually possibly help their output because they're able to maybe better self-care, self-manage, right? And have more productivity. It's definitely something I think that is worth considering and looking into because the trends show it. People are burned out,
Right.
and the numbers are showing kind of that reaction to this burnout, especially post COVID.
Hmm. I think with experienced dentists, I think dentists have figured out their scheduling, uh, um, and burnout and their performance. On average, they work about 3 to 4 days a week,
Hmm.
and can sometimes have a day to split those two days, right? And maybe take off a Wednesday or take off a Thursday and a Friday. Usually, dental offices are closed on Friday, which is interesting. I'm not sure if you've noticed that, but
Yeah.
so they've kind of figured it out that way, and they attribute it to their output, like you were saying. But yeah, kind of similar concept. If you're a younger dentist and you haven't figured it out yet, and you think, oh, I need to attack my student loans, and I need to work 4 or 5 days a week, maybe 6, uh, you might want to reconsider that strategy because it's not sustainable, and it's important to take care of your overall health and keep that in mind. Okay, I appreciate you.
Okay.
Thanks, Tanya.
Thanks, Drew.